Previously on The Challenge, Rivals 3.
I just want to congratulate everybody on making it to the halfway mark. I need you to step your game up.
Seriously, I can't believe I'm stuck with that douchebag.
That's your partner.
I definitely get my toughness from my grandma. Just very independent, always funny, always sarcastic. It's not gonna be the same anymore without her.
Let go of bloodlines. This is the face you're going to have to get used to seeing every single day.
Because I'm the Miz, and I'm awesome.
I'm a baker, not a robber, babe. And I don't give a
An episode unlike any other this season, we saw two very different swerves on this week's episode of The Challenge, Rivals 3. First, a meltdown that left a team disqualified and sent home. And second, a grueling challenge testing the physical and psychological limitations of the remaining 8 teams. My name is RiverCity Clement, and welcome to this week's installment, our 8th of this season, recapping and reviewing the latest episode of MTV's The Challenge in our series, Rise to the Challenge. Another team was sent home, but not in the elimination jungle, but through a DQ. And the only two to blame are the two rivals' teammates that caused the incident, Camilla and Tony. We also saw a lengthy challenge event. It was downright brutal to watch, which both had its merits and its fatal flaws. It was an episode without many major arcs, but still two that gave us plenty to discuss. So let's dive straight into an episode riddled with plenty of emotions, mental and physical exhaustion, and the long-awaited departure of a toxic pair of teammates. If you've been listening to this series, you know our quick hit style for these episodes. And if you're new, well, it's pretty damn simple. Whenever you hear this sound, it means we finished that thought and we're already on to the next one. On to the next one. Definitely sounds like a good theme to be used on this podcast, right? Enough of that though. Hey, let's do this thing. Kicking off the show is a pretty noteworthy previously on The Challenge that's going to give us a blueprint for what to expect, at least the first half of this volatile episode. Camilla and Tony, they're the only true rivals on this show, and they hate each other. They get drunk and they go nuts, typically on each other. In fact, it's getting borderline dangerous. Last week, Nate and Christina, they won the Road to Nowhere challenge, with Jamie and Kellyanne literally falling flat on their faces. Far more noteworthy, Nate and Christina absolutely butchered the nominations for people going to the jungle, forever ruining a chance to really shake up this game and give themselves any sort of an alliance with actual staying power. And after some disappointing nominations, Jamie and Kellyanne survived the jungle against Nelson and Amanda, sending them home and keeping themselves alive. As for this week's episode, Tony still hates Camilla, and a showdown is coming. And Camilla won't back down, not a single inch. And because of that, TJ will be coming to the house, and we already know what's going to happen. Tony and Camilla are going to be sent home. We're just going to have to see how it unfolds. The real drama is going to be how long this takes to go down during this episode. And we start off the episode, the third in a row, in the club. And Tony is doing what he does best, downing beer after beer after beer, and bragging about it like a college frat boy. That's the first big sign of trouble. Maybe it's more than just a crush alert. It looks like Nicole and Nate are a real item. I think they're even dating now. As for Corey and Simone, it's gotten kind of embarrassing to the point where Corey, he's fully put everything out there and Simone isn't vibing. She seems like a good girl who will avoid the hookup on TV, on screen at all costs. Corey, you gotta drop her, at least on this show. It's not worth it in the challenge universe for you to work this hard. And work on those dance moves, buddy, because they ain't working either. And there goes the Camillinator in a bra and pants in the club, loving to do what she does best, insult, instigate, and demean others. You know, and Devin being friends with both Tony and being I guess somewhat romantically interested and involved with Camilla, I could care less. In fact, you all know how I feel about Devin. Maestro, if you will. The Camilla-related drama keeps rolling on. While goofing off on the back patio, her and Vince collide, and Camilla does scrape her hands up a little, but no worse than she would slipping on some stairs at the club or the walkway up to the challenge house, which is just as likely. And as Camilla does this season more than any other, she blows it completely out of proportion, plays the whiny victim card, everybody else is wrong, she's a victim, which of course causes Bananas and Vince to only further poke at her. They're bullies, admittedly, and that's what bullies do.
You're mean.
I was never trying to hurt you.
You're mean people. You
knew
just
I
said,
wasn't trying to hurt
after
you.
you already made fun of it, you just made fun of it again. So don't try to fix it. You're a bully. You were last season and you are now. You haven't changed a bit. It's too bad my partner penalizes you guys. It's too bad.
What did I do? I'm
Johnny, you're a
responsible for
dick,
everything.
dude.
What did I do?
Making matters worse, Banana really just wants to instigate right now and have Tony, who's sleeping, try and calm his irate, irrational, and intoxicated partner down. Bananas even foreshadows that he's doing this largely just to see the moment, to cause trouble, to make some drama in the house. And as most of Bananas' plans do, it works to a T. Now, I'm not totally blaming Bananas and Vince for what happened. The confrontation between Camilla and Tony was a long time coming, even to this scale. However, they played a role, and they don't deserve to feel sorry for themselves or feel like they're innocent from what happened. There's blood on their hands as well, just not the majority of it.
Tony, you need to just go put her to bed, dude. Tell this bitch she needs to shut it down.
Our aim in waking up Tony is twofold. One, it's to hopefully fight fire with fire. And on the other hand, there's also going to be some entertainment involved as well.
You just need to tell your partner, shut up, idiot, dude.
All hell starts to break loose, and Tony then shows his true dark side. One we got a preview with against Amanda earlier this season, which left Jessica disgusted with Tony.
Why y'all hating on us?
Amanda and Tony are arguing about which one is better. Are you the one or the real world? This entire argument is absolutely ridiculous.
That's what they call it, are you the one?
Tony.
Y'all
And you're on a dating show. And you're on a dating show, shut the up.
Amanda's really getting underneath Tony's skin, but he's getting way too pissed off.
Shut the
Are you mad about that though?
I'm not going to break down the altercation between Tony and Camilla minute by minute, except to say that it was ugly, from both sides. Camilla's never able to let things go. She often hides behind simple excuses, her emotions, her Brazilian roots, drinking, or her inability for anyone to take her side. Camilla is a seasoned veteran in this game, and she often acts like the biggest child in the house. She provokes people, male and female, and isn't able to walk the line between standing up for herself and outright attempting to instigate, often violence with others. She physically threatened people throughout the season. She often looks to others to be physical with her. Her words are often brutally cutting as well, and she knows it. And then she throws a pity party the day after with the best of them, hardly ever taking an ounce of true accountability. As for Tony, his actions were absolutely 100% unequivocally indefensible. And excuses of him being too drunk, blacked out, or understanding his issues and hoping to fix them, they're bullshit. I don't like to curse on this show, but Tony, who I really enjoy, he's full of shit in this aspect. You can't always hide behind alcohol, your past, problems with your family, or that nonsense. At some point, you have to rise above. And you don't confront women physically. You don't intimidate them physically. It's never okay. He's shown signs of this before, and it's clearly a chronic issue. Now, I'm not here to play TV critic psychologist, but both of these two need to be in therapy or sober, 100%. It's the only way they're going to be able to deal with these issues. And until they do, Tony nor Camilla shouldn't be back in the challenge house, despite how entertaining they may be, despite how athletic they may be, despite the ratings they bring in. Because situations like this, as TJ said, can't occur. And hiding behind alcohol and other excuses, as I said before, is bullshit. And that's the only word that Tony and Camilla need to be told for their ridiculous, poor, and lazy excuses. The next morning, we get typical excuses from Tony, who I frankly don't believe doesn't remember these decisions he makes, blacking out. What a opportunistic way to have to ever take any accountability. I'm not sure if he's lying to himself or just to others, but I don't trust it. And TJ shows up the next morning, rounds everybody up. It's pretty simple what's coming up.
Warned you before. You're out of here. Get your stuff.
Fortunately, TJ removes Camilla and Tony, and it's 100% the correct move. The house really isn't even that surprised, and I don't think Tony and Camilla are surprised either, and none of you watching should be either. Tony and Camilla are toxic together and simply can't coexist in this setting this season. As much as I enjoyed them separately on this show, I don't want to hear their excuses. They need to go now.
Bye, Felicia.
The next morning, as expected, Camilla feels cheated, but in the end, Camilla cheated Camilla. Tony blames Tequila. Tony needs to blame Tony. I doubt either have learned a thing from this. The waterworks that are going to ensue, the pity parties will continue, and Tony being naive, it's just enough. I'm done. The Mucho Mas after show will likely focus on this some more, with excuses from both, but I'm not going to on this podcast. That's not what we do here. We don't review after shows.
And that's all I have to say about that.
A mere 20 minutes after Camilla and Tony are finally out of the house, it's challenge time. Wow. Good work, producers. I'm on board for this. Great work. The remaining teams make their way to the jungle setting, but not for an elimination, and TJ congratulates the cast on making it to the halfway mark, as only 8 teams remain. And keep in mind, only 2 have been eliminated and kept eliminated in the jungle. And TJ lets them know it's time for a reminder of why they're here. To make money. A whole lot of it. $350,000 worth of money. The challenge this week, called Up All Night, well, each team needs to stand on a box with their partner for several hours throughout the night. Every few hours, each group will move to a smaller box, standing closer to their partner. There are 3 total boxes, getting smaller and smaller as you step down. There's no sitting, no leaning, and both teammates must stand up without falling off the entire time. And this could be 5 hours, 10 hours, or a whole day. We don't know yet. It's not as if balancing on the boxes won't be tough enough. It's standing for potentially 12 hours straight that will. And it's not just a physical challenge, it's mental. 8 small events will occur throughout, in which key details would need to be remembered. And this is in the middle of the night that this is taking place, after maybe the longest day in the house. TJ doesn't explicitly say it, but almost all the teams realize this challenge is far more than just standing for hours on end. Part 2 of it's going to be a mind game when TJ returns the next morning. The winners will also earn $1,000 apiece and a day trip. Not too shabby for a long night's work. Unfortunately, there's no Jenna quote of the week, but instead Dario takes the reins and does pretty damn well, because $1,000 to Dario means 1,000 junior bacon cheeseburgers or 1,000 McDoubles. Dario, I like the way you think, brother. Ta-da! We're about halfway into the episode, and that means that, well, half this episode is likely to be focused on the challenge. No jungle. And likely, it's either going to be a clip of people whining and whining and whining about the physical and mental strains of the event, which is somewhat justified, and the other half, people just forgetting to pay attention altogether, and I'm sure you can guess which teams those are. As for the 8 distractions, as all the teams maintain their balance on the box without any real issues, let's go through them one by one. First, a live mariachi band playing the same song for an hour straight. Man, I hate repetitive noises. This would be the worst part. Second, a guy wearing a random radio station t-shirt starts swinging around a fixture, rappelling up and down, quite dangerously, and randomly. By the third one, it's midnight now, they're a few hours in, and a dirt bike rider is up, spinning and doing quite a few donuts in front of the cast. Nearing the midway point, Vince and Jenna finally start to realize they should be paying attention. Well played. And then a welder shows up and then randomly lights somebody on fire, wearing quite the serape, no less, and he runs off as only a stuntman could. Awesome. Fifth, a donkey pulls up with a taco vendor behind him, and a little meal's being prepared, which actually looks quite tasty, a little bit of tacos. And the animal's meat doesn't look to be brain or genitals, so, well, Jenna's still not going to eat it, and that's not the most shocking news of the night, to say the least. Next up, likely 2 production assistants on the staff, both don luchador wrestling masks and are swinging around on ropes. One wielding a chainsaw, With no chain on it, of course. Of course. 7th up, and now Nate and Christina think they should have been paying attention, even later into the game. Another strong mental showing for this powerhouse. It's 3:30 a.m. and a juggler is out there to amaze and wonder. Ooh. Last but not least, a pretty badass looking iguana and his handlers show up, with pictures to be taken for every team. How cute. Jenna, Ash doesn't want any part of it, while Ashley would love nothing more than to adopt little Alberto. Quite the random 8 events, no? Believe it or not, it's not till 10:30 a.m. the next morning that arrested TJ returns. That had to be well over 12 hours, and that's downright brutal. Hard to not go stir crazy. And now, it's time for round 2. As if they weren't tired enough, inside each of the boxes they were standing on are puzzle pieces. Pieces that each team has to put together in order, stacking them, while answering questions about each individual event. In a word, this is brutal. And puzzles, that's Sarah's bag. It's an immediate advantage to her and Bananas. By the point they dump out their first box, we're nearing the hour point of this episode, which means, well, we're finishing this next week. As for next week on the challenge, well, it's one real question. Who's going to get this done first and who's going to get it done last? And there's no real clue given to find out. But Wes and Dario start to potentially plan what Nate and Christina neglected to do last week with a golden opportunity. Put Vince and Bananas in every week you have a chance to do so. That way you build an alliance and you try to get one, if not both of those teams out. Especially when you have a stronger team like Jamie and Kellyanne last week, who are already automatically in the jungle and could legitimately eliminate them. Will that plan come to fruition this season? No. And that's why Bananas and Sarah will cruise to victory and Vince and Jenna will make the final. But, drama along the way, there should still be plenty of that, and as long as it's unexpected, and now that we have a break from Tony and Camilla, I think we're all better off.
This moment has no words. I finally win one.
I won! We won!
I could not have done it without Evelyn. We've always worked against each other, and who knew what a great partnership we'd make. We're perfect together.
Paula will forever be my #1 choice of a teammate in any challenge. Every time that anyone had doubts about Paula, she stepped up to the occasion and proved them wrong. I'm the champion right now, but I could not possibly have done it without Paula at my side.
If you listened to last week's episode, I hope you noticed very early on into our 8th Hall of Fame induction just how much fun I had doing it. Not only was Mike the Miz Mizanin an incredibly easy pick, he was a lot of fun to induct. I mean, how many WWE champions can say that they got their start from reality TV and the MTV Real World and Challenge universes? I have the number at, well, 1. The Miz's induction leaves us with a pretty stacked Hall of Fame class thus far. For the guys, we have Darrell, CT, Kenny, and the aforementioned Miz. For the ladies, Ev, Laurel, Susie, and Emily. Simply put, that's an elite 8. And being that we still have a few more episodes to go this season, that means we have a few more cast members still left to induct. And the question many have been asking us is, will current members of Rivals 3 be included? Simply put, yes, but not until the season really starts to wind down. As for this week's inductee, it became simpler and simpler over the past few weeks to assess which ladies deserved a potential Hall of Fame induction. None more so than Paula Moranek. Playing the role of the Buffalo Bills for challenge upon challenge, Paula finally broke through with a pair of wins in the 2 previous installments of Rivals, first teaming successfully with Ev, and then repeating with Emily to garner her first 2 and only 2 victories on the challenge.
When your worst enemy,
Paula, are you gonna say hi or not?
becomes your only teammate,
Paula, you're teamed with Evelyn.
the game will change.
I really got my work cut out for me.
I'm pumped. Then I remember we don't like each other.
Paula, a seasoned veteran who entered the MTV universe all the way back during the Real World Key West, competed in 10 challenges, 10, reaching 5 finals. She always seemed to be behind the 8 ball when it came to winning her first challenge. Whether it was due to bad luck, brutal elimination matchups, or just the constant scheming of one Johnny Bananas, see the island, Paula always seemed to fall a little short. And even Paula has to admit that despite being physically able to do anything the challenges asked, she really lacked the true cutthroat mental game to be considered as dominant as Emily, Paula, and many other female challengers during her time. Yet Paula's 4-5 record in eliminations is nothing to scoff at. Neither is going out on top, with a win in Rivals 2 in her final challenge with Emily. It might have taken two exceptional partners to win, but it doesn't mean that those two were straddled with Paula. The exact opposite. Paula's the only real-world female cast member to win more than one challenge. She has her place now among the all-time elite performers in challenge history. And while the road was far from easy, the destination, the Hall of Fame, should be more than satisfying to our deserving 9th member in the BDP Challenge Hall of Fame. Thank you as always for listening to this week's episode, the 8th installment in our series, Rise to the Challenge. This episode was a little different than what we had previously seen this season, but there's plenty of challenge-related drama to go next week, as we find out who will come out on top of the Up All Night Challenge, and more importantly, which teams are elimination jungle bound. Hopefully the DQs, quitting, and misery-based drama can end, and we can enjoy the remainder of the second half of the season as we wind closer and closer to having only 3 teams standing. We here at the Baker's Dozen Podcast are also wrapping up our 3rd season. We're 12 episodes in after the release earlier this week of our latest episode, a mashup of sports, pop culture, and politics. We discuss LeBron James and Cleveland's epic Game 7 performance to capture their elusive NBA title, the run of U.S. soccer and Copa America, and Dustin Johnson's breakthrough victory at the U.S. Open at Oakmont. On the pop culture side of things, Heather Grubb returned to the show to break down the book-to-film adaptations of You Before Me, starring Emilia Clarke. She also discussed Orange is the New Black on Netflix, including the first few episodes of its latest season, Season 4, which dropped last Friday. We wrapped the episode up with some political speak as well, as Schuyler Van Valkenburg returned to the show to wrap up the Democratic primary and balance the potential political legacy of Bernie Sanders and some advice he had for Hillary Clinton as she pivots towards the national campaign against Donald Trump. It was a stellar episode that you should definitely check out as soon as you can. Our archive is easy to access at our Podomatic.com page. Even easier is subscribing to the Baker's Dozen Podcast, either on iTunes or the podcast app, and that way you can have automatic downloads minutes after they drop, whether it's our regular episodes or any installments in this series, Rise to the Challenge. All content produced from the studios here at the Baker's Dozen Podcast. This most recent episode, plus every past episode, including the 7 Rise to the Challenge episodes that preceded this one, are found in those archives. They're easy to search, and it's easy to find something that you enjoy. It's even easier if you subscribe to the show. Whether it's sports, pop culture, or politics, we got you covered here. Catch up with us all over social media, whether Twitter, Instagram, or Facebook, and we'll be sure to do our best to continue to deliver the best guests and the best content possible. We'll see you next week for episode 9 here as well, with hopefully a few more fireworks in the jungle and not just the challenge house. Until then, though, we'll try to do our very best to rise to the challenge.
If I could choose to start it over, I'd exercise more discretion. The lies are open, so nothing's so dead. Do you have good intentions? Come on, let go of those affectations. You don't fool anyone. Come on, let go if you want it to go. The years will say what happened to you.
To be honest, no matter how hard I try, I'm always going to love Zach.
I would rather go to prison than date her again. She literally is insane.